What I wanted to walk you guys through today is being a kind of like an X kind of a cloud-based, basically an MSP provider myself. I would say that this is a great time to be especially with the Sophos Wireless. There's a great opportunity in front of us. I'll walk you guys through the what's new first, and then eventually walk you through the details about these access points. These access points that we have just launched in September timeframe, they are unlike any other access points that we did it in past. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming up from our portfolio perspective. So many of you know this, but I wanted to make sure that this is basically understood from our partners' perspective. The same access point that we have can be managed by Central and can be also managed by the Sophos firewall or Sophos XG firewall. So this is a great opportunity. These are the access points that are built with a lot of built-in coolness, but they are also, you don't have to switch different access points and basically manage one with the other. So that gives you a great amount of flexibility from an MSP perspective. You can choose the type of solution that you want, the type of customer preference that they have. You can basically start building your portfolio around that. The big part about this particular MSP, I would say, or this particular part of a basically launch is that we have got 3 big announcements. As you can see now, these APX access points that we call it, which is a next generation access points, starting February 11th, they are available on 17.5 MR. We have an entry level access point that's kind of like a small access point that's dual radio. I think this is a great product for MSP partners. And this is one thing where the customer is very price conscious. You want to start building basically a smaller solution and then eventually scale up and basically offer different options. And we also launch a volume-based pricing, and the details will basically follow on this. So what is exactly an APX series portfolio, right? So if you look at it, we have now APX 120, 320, 530, and 740. They're best in class. They're kind of like enterprise class access point, designed and developed in-house by Sophos. But price point perspective, they are extremely aggressive compared to most of the partners or most of the vendors out there in the market. What I did is I wanted to give you a quick summary of when exactly these access points are going to be available on Central and Firewall. So if you look at left-hand side, all of these are available on Central. Only APX 120 is something that we are working on. That's going to be available on Firewall sometimes in mid-2019. 320 is a dual radio platform, very versatile in a school type of environment, very high density type of environment. You can put an access point in a dual 5 gigahertz more, or you can also put this access point in 2.4 and 5. And then your 530 and 740 are your kind of classic, basically an enterprise class access point. And I'll walk you through that. What are some of the features, feeds, and things like that. Certification for North America customers might not really matter, but we are making sure that we are continuously certifying these access point in different region. So if you have a global customer as an MSP, you want to make sure that you understand that where exactly these access points are certified. Please contact us, and we'll be more than happy to basically help you out how to basically go with the customer on that. From intra-product positioning perspective, as you remember, we used to have, or we still have, our AP series. Soon they are going to go in an end of sale and end of life cycle. When I say soon, is not like tomorrow, but the idea is that in next 6 to 12 months, you will start seeing some announcements around that how these access points are going to be transitioning from AP series to APX. Now, if your customer is very price sensitive and they are looking for some solution, then APX 120 is their solution. But APX 120 does not have the rate versus range or the coverage that typical good, I would say, a enterprise class device would have. That's when the APX 320 comes into play. Very well priced, dual 5 gigahertz platform, also really good performance from a platform perspective. And then if the customer starts using a 3x3 and a 4x4, and I'll explain this, what exactly, those of you who are not very wireless centric MSPs, 3x3 means that if you're using a MacBook Pro or a high-end Lenovo type of devices, or typically if you're using an iPad with a combination of mobile device, these are the great devices for that. And then 740 is a 4x4, which is extremely powerful. It's our flagship product with a lot of capabilities built into these access point. We still don't have an outdoor replacement for our existing AP series, which is AP100X. And by end of this year, we will have that. So continue selling that. It will still work on Sophos Central and on the XG series. This gives you an idea of how exactly we have structured basically devices or different verticals that you can go after. Now, this is just a guideline. This does not mean that there are some hard rules that APX 120 or APX 320 can be only used in a small school or a retail type of environment. But this gives you a guideline that if you have an entry-level laptops and some unmanaged devices, you want to basically use APX 320. If you put this device into dual 5 gigahertz mode, you can go all the way up to 30 clients. If you put it in a mixed environment, that you could have a 7 to 25 clients in your environment. Smaller number of clients with APX 120. Once you start going higher end devices, 530, your device density can start going up. Your applications will start going up. So type of applications that you can use could be a voice or IP, your Zoom calls, or your go-to-meeting this type of scenario. You want to use typically APX 740 and 530. Now, there is no set rule in Wi-Fi, but this is something for simplistic perspective, what we came up with, that you use the high performance, as you can see, is in red for the lower end access point, and then more focus on a basic connectivity. If the customer is saying, hey, look, this is just a restaurant, I just want to provide a basic connectivity to my patrons, more than happy to use 120 and 320 would be a great platform to start with. If you look at just the basic ordering, this is fairly simple. You decide which country code or which basically device you want. Most of the North America team members in USA would use FCC. And then there is a Canada option. So you have to basically look at the rest. You should order the rest of the world for Australia, Canada type of option. And then one big thing that we made changes to is APX now has 5-year warranty. We didn't used to have this in past, but this is a great opportunity. We stand behind the quality and the supportability of these platforms, and we want to make sure you also take an advantage of that. This is just an environment. I know many of you have asked how to position from a density perspective. So in Wi-Fi, one thing that you have to understand is there is a density part, there is a capacity part, and then there is a performance per access point, how many clients can connect to. I've just taken this as an example, right? So large offices where it's highly dense environment. Nowadays, if you look at a lot of Silicon Valley offices are like, you go to a Twitter office or Facebook office, they're all open offices. Lots of basically access points are required to support these type of devices. There are a lot of high-end devices. You typically have a high density, high capacity, and you also need a high performance. If you look at the school environment, typical school environment is a classroom is basically anywhere between 20 to 30, 35 students. You have a teacher who might have an Apple TV and an iPad or a MacBook Pro to basically show some of the content. This is the type of environment where you can decide whether you want to put the APX 320 in a dual 5 gigahertz mode, if there are lots of 5 gigahertz devices, or in a mixed mode type of environment. And then APX 120, you have a small restaurant, small cafe, even in a low density environment, you want to basically use it. This is a great platform, very aggressively priced. You can start basically deploying in these type of environment. That was just like a guideline from us, what type of persona, what type of buyer persona would be mapping with the typical customer. Now, many of you might ask, it's like, hey, why should I basically move to APX series? Great question from technology perspective and also from a business perspective. We believe that the 11AC Wave 2 is now become more mainstream. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, that technology was too cutting edge, and many devices were not even taking an advantage of that. More and more devices are going to require better performance, which we have seen as over the period of time. We all know that our cat video consumption has basically gone substantially higher. We will need more performance. We will definitely need better basically supportability, better channel supportability. And I think the big part of this is that you get to take an advantage of a massive processing power that these access point provides now, right? Which was not the case with our AP series platform. In the case of basically opportunity with XG, there is a kind of like an initial purchase that you would do, and it's part of the base license. Wi-Fi is basically, or Wi-Fi license is already included, right? So the idea is that once you have a access point, or you want to add Red or any of these other products, and then you can continue basically adding more products. As you know that now XG is also on Central. So there are a lot of opportunities or cross-sell opportunity for you to start bringing other wireless products or other basically mobile products basically as a part of it, right? So you can also start with the access point on the hardware and then basically start bringing that to Central. We are also introducing those of you who are already working with some of the other vendors, let's say Ruckus, Aruba, Aerohive. One thing that we have noticed that you need a lot of help on planning. I would spend a lot of time on planning exercise of wireless, because rightfully done, whatever planning you do is going to yield a lot of good, I would say, results on a wireless coverage and overall throughput side of things. So what we have done is our internal SEs can now bring in plans from your side, right? So let's say if you have a customer deployment, you need some assistance. What you do is you get a wireless advice. You basically get the team of experts from Sophos working side by side with you to make sure that you get the right planning advice on how to deploy these access points. This is a great opportunity if you look at it, right? If you are already well versed with some of the tools out there, which we already did. We have Ekahau, and we have here's an example of a typical bad results, right? So if you look at it right in your environment, if you have not done the planning correctly, there are a whole bunch of holes you will have from the coverage perspective. If you provide with a really good information where exactly the walls are, where exactly the typical basically elevator shafts are, or basically where the student room is, we could provide you with a complete planning diagram and where you should deploy a wireless access point based on the coverage patterns that we have. This is just an example. What we also did is, if you feel that you are capable and you are more than you're an expert in this, what we did is we have included these Wi-Fi patterns now in an Ekahau. So if you open an Ekahau tool, you will see Sophos wireless access points integrated as a part of patterns, and we have provided them with the pattern. From that version onwards, we will basically start supporting this. But if you need to get some advice, if you want us to basically plan it for you, please contact your local SE, local Sophos SE, and we'll be more than happy to help you guys out. We'll give you an export as a PDF or a KMZ file, depending upon those who are kind of Google Maps fan. We'll provide you with all this information that you can basically now provide to your customer. We can even do more of a custom options for you. So if you want to put your logo, or if you want to put some design that basically shows that it's coming from an MSP partner, we'll be able to support that too. So now I'm going to switch gears and basically give you some idea about what is so unique about Sophos Central-based Wi-Fi, right? Now, we did an internal survey, and if you look at it, right, this is the North America numbers. 57% of IT managers said that blocking Wi-Fi and access for an infected mobile and endpoint is one of the #1 priority, or the features that they would like to have, right? So if you have a bad device or bad endpoint or mobile in your environment, you definitely want to block them. And Sophos delivered this feature with the synchronized security. So if you think about this, is cybersecurity as a system, wireless was introduced last year as a part of an mobile and endpoint integration. So mobile endpoint and server now basically support this. So what you do is you discover a device, you analyze what exactly is happening, and then you respond, and you want to automate that response, right? Because you don't want to each and every client or each and every endpoint when that is basically affected, you don't want to run around in your network and see that how you can stop that. So our product automatically discovers, it basically analyzes that where exactly these devices are connected, which SSID, and then it automatically, as long as you have provided the policies on these access points SSID, it will restrict them in a more of a walled garden. And this is how it typically work. Let's take an example of an endpoint, right? If the endpoint detects a malware attack, it immediately basically sends out a cross-estate communication to all the central connected devices and saying, hey, by the way, there seems to be a problem. This particular device is infected. Sophos Wireless automatically restricts the internet access to this particular device, right? So they put them in a, we call it walled garden, and all propagation of that particular malware stops immediately. Now, you can now clean up as an IT manager, and then eventually basically this device basically sends the message back and say, hey, looks like the malware is gone. Sophos Wireless automatically restores the Wi-Fi connectivity for that. Similar thing for the mobile device. This is basically part of our UEM integration. Mobile device pen basically says that the device is unprotected or there is a compliance violation. This is very important because especially when your device tries to basically connect to your intranet, and if it is not compliant, let's say they have rooted the iPhone or they have decided to load some application that could be malicious, you can immediately block them from a wireless network. Now, next step to that, many of you might have heard about this Project Darwin internally, which is all about how do we bring that intelligence, insight, and remediation to, we call it device discovery. And device discovery is a way to look at all the devices, not just Sophos managed devices. Look at all managed and unmanaged devices, what type of device categories they are into. How can you automatically classify? Can you override the classifier, right? So I'll give an example. You have a video surveillance. Someone brought their video camera in their office environment. You want to remotely look at it, what this device is all about. And then you can say that, well, this seems to be a more of a malicious or more of a different type of device. You can reclassify that or recategorize that so that you can create your own little database of devices that are basically on your network. This comes up many times. What to sell when? This is an important when, if you look at wireless has the way it has evolved. So I started my career almost back in 2002, 2003 in the Wi-Fi when 11 ABG networks were managed through a controller. Many of you might remember Cisco used to have a unmanaged or kind of directly managed access point. And that has evolved in a controller-based architecture, that a single controller or a large controller would manage thousands of access points. And I would say starting of 2010 onwards, things have evolved into a cloud has evolved, a cloud as a platform is evolving. And a lot of customers are choosing central type of environment as their way to choose it. Now, how do you choose that? So if you have multiple location, customer is ready to do cloud, there is a cloud affinity. They know that the environment is very dynamic. So it starts with a technology cycle for one, and then you want to evolve it. Many of my past deployment as an MSP used to be that we will start with the access points in high school, and then the technology will change. So what we'll do is we'll take these high school access points and then deploy them in an elementary school, and then high school will get wave 2. And then once the budget opens up, we'll start basically expanding those solutions into middle school and elementary school. Similar thing is like headquarter in a hospital's main hospital would basically get the latest and greatest technology. And then their kind of sub offices or sub real estates would start basically getting the next generation access points and so forth. And you as an MSP can decide what is the right technology for them. Now, that does not mean that the controllers are going away, as you know, if the customer knows that they have a fewer location, they know that on-prem is what they like. They want to take an advantage of all the XG-based, basically firewall capabilities. And on top of that, they want just the basic management that basically allows them to look at the devices. Not a large insight fan, right? Not someone who is basically saying, hey, I'm going to just apply the policies based on the wireless and wire connection, and then keep the network as it is. My network is not that dynamic. Those are the areas where the XG-based firewall solution works really well for those customers. I would say that the next basically thing is that if you want to, unless it's an outdoor opportunity, please consider APX as your all future deals. There is a partner blog that we have created that will be available to you. We'll provide you with the links, and then position the right product as a part of basically solution. I think that it's very important that you as a partner decide what is the right solution for your end customer, depending upon their affinity to cloud or their affinity to a on-prem type of solution. We have a clear comparison between features. All the features that we have it in XG are now part of central platform. So you can take an advantage of that. And then if the customer prefers still on-prem, more than happy to basically provide that as a solution. The advantage here is that the same access point will move from one to another. If you are looking at someone like WatchGuard or some of the other players, like where you have to, even Cisco Meraki, you have a different set of platform or different set of access point that you have to choose when you move from cloud to on-prem or on-prem to cloud. And in Sophos case, that's basically a biggest advantage, where you can choose the same platform and will continuously keep on supporting both platforms with the right type of access points. So I'll pause there, and if there are any particular questions, more than happy to do that. Sorry, I was not looking at questions while I was.
No, Shail, this is absolutely great. We do have a lot of questions. I'll ask a couple of those in a second. You mentioned Ekahau, and you referred to a wireless site assessment. So everybody on the call knows, if you have the floor plans with the dimensions, you can actually send that to your MSP or your territory sales rep, and we have a internal site assessment desk that we can leverage using Ekahau to show you where to place what APX models in order to get the optimal coverage. So if you do have those capabilities, absolutely leverage your sales team and have them, leverage our internal wireless site assessment desk. I think that will be, very, very helpful for everybody on the call. Couple other questions came in. Are we recording this? The answer is absolutely yes. Can you have the PowerPoint presentation? The PowerPoint presentation is actually located in the handout section of GoToWebinar. So you have that as well. There was another question I think would be applicable to everybody on the call. Does Sophos provide a battle card for partners? And the answer is yes. All of our battle cards are located up on the Sophos partner portal. If you do not have access to that, or if you cannot find them, please reach out to your team. You should know Travis Simmons, Eric Kalseth, and Matt Bernacki. We also have East MSP, Central MSP, and West MSP at sophos.com email aliases, and we will be able to get you access to all of that very, very quickly. Couple of questions for you, Shail. QoS and VLANs capable?
Yes, they are. Right? So all of these access points are VLAN capable. You can combine the combination of your access point VLAN with your switch VLAN. We have all the configuration around that. And we also have a guest VLAN capability if you are looking for that.
Great. Is the range of the APX 740 more than that of other models? I'm not referring to density calculations here.
Yeah, great question. So the answer in general is that APX 740 would have the best range. It's one of the largest access point. You will see it. It's a heavier version of all of them. This is where the RF and the physical dimension of a platform definitely helps. But in general, I would say that the rate versus range test that we have done against some of the competitor, we are coming at par with a lot of that. So I'll give you an example. A typical test that we do is that we walk away from an access point from 30 meters, 60 meter, all the way up to 100 meters, and we test the range. We test the rate of data rates at that time, and these access point, all of these top 3 access points, 740, 530, and 320. Based on a pertinent clients, 4x4, 3x3, and 2x2 clients, they have shown an amazing range. But 740 would slightly have a better range, rate versus range, compared to other platforms. Yes.
Great. What about BYOD devices and wireless protection? Sophos Central Wireless advantages.
Great. So BYOD is basically our big topic. If you look at one of the big investment this year, what we are doing is we are bringing all the identity, all the management directly for the BYOD. And the way I say this is because we already have we already have a standard enterprise authentication, but we also have a guest basically configuration on the Sophos Central. But that's not enough. The idea is that we're going to bring in social login. We're going to bring in the SMS-based authentication. We're going to bring in voucher-based authentication that allows you to onboard the devices and also track the devices. One of the big part of the initiative that we have it in 2019 is I don't want to see someone with an IP or a MAC address. I really want to see that it is Scott Parlow's MacBook Pro or it's Shell Talati's iPad. I really want to track down that who that user is, and if they are having any challenges, I want to introduce the human factor into the overall logs, dashboard, and the usage capacity. So we are definitely adding all of these capabilities this year. So a lot of BYOD onboarding and the secure onboarding part will be part of our roadmap starting May this year.
Great. Any training on the new APX? Where would partners go to get training?
All right. So we already have included our training. Basically, modules does include APX, also includes the Sophos Central and XG-based Wi-Fi. I'm assuming, Scott, we can make that available to our partners if they want to subscribe to. Sophos Central-based deployment is fairly simple. So if you are I would say just try the APX and then basically see there are a lot of information available on the partner portal where you can see that how each of these access points are compared. And then sessions like this, I'm more than happy to provide like a detailed kind of a tech-only basically session for some of the techies and geeks in the house, and basically make sure that they get all the information around that.
Great. There's actually a lot of technical questions I'm going to ask you right here. So how easy is it to configure the wireless roaming?
Yeah, so it's fairly simple. We allow fast roaming in the environment. So you can basically, as a part of an SSID, there is a simple settings called Advanced, which basically you can select the fast roaming part. One question you might ask that, is this particular device 11 kVR certified? The answer is no. Right now, from a target market perspective, large hospitals use this type of environment where they have a lot of voice or IP roaming. We have not certified those, but if you have those requirements, please reach out to Steve, and I'll be more than happy to work with him to see that how we can get that certified.
Great. What is the amount of SSID for this range of product? The original AP range had 8 per radio. What is the amount of these?
Yeah, it's same. So it's total 16 with 2 radios, 8 per radio. This is a very traditional question, because many organizations think that in order to segment the traffic, you need to create more SSIDs. There is one fundamental flaw in this basically scenario. What typically I recommend is that you want to create less number of SSIDs. So most of the organizations should have an Active Directory or an employee SSID, they should have a BYOD SSID, and they could have a guest SSID. There are new options coming up like an IoT device SSIDs, so you can add that. But 8 is enough. I would say 3 to 4 is the max you should use from an SSID perspective to segment the traffic.
Great. Are you going to offer any flow control and web content filtering in the cloud-only solution?
Yes, so the answer is yes. And we do provide the web content, I would say, insight today. What we are not doing is we are not following through on our plans to basically do the content filtering and content blocking. That's something is in our roadmap, and I'll be very honest, we are going through our green light planning. We internally call it our planning exercise for the next 12 months. As soon as that is available, I'll let you know that whether that feature will make it or not. But we do have that in our backlog. Might not be in the near future, so that could be a 2020, I would say, release feature that we are looking at.
Calendar year?
Calendar year, yes, yeah.
Okay. What are the PoE requirements for the higher end models?
Yeah, so you need a PoE plus. Typically, more spatial streams that you start using for these access point, especially your 3x3 and 4x4, will need PoE plus power, right? So PoE plus power is something that we offer as a part of our accessories. But I would recommend that you purchase a switch from a third-party vendor who can basically support that PoE plus power. APX 320 and APX 120 both support PoE power, so they can be used with the lower power requirement.
Great. And does the APX series have any signal to noise features for handling high interference locations?
Yes, so that's built in. We have the way we have designed. This is a very different, I would say, design compared to what we had done in AP. And in all transparency, the AP series, what we did is we bought a ready product from a vendor, and we didn't put any efforts into designing the RF components. In the case of APX, we have started putting tremendous amount of effort to design all of these built-in goodness, I can say, where the signal to noise ratio has been significantly better. That's the main reason why our rate versus range is way better, because more noise you have it in your environment, or more noise floor you have it in an environment, your range will start getting affected, and you will have a very inefficient wireless network. And we can provide you with these numbers, the technical numbers on each of these. They're way better and very comparable to some of the vendors like Ruckus and Aruba out there.
Great. I see a lot of questions here about getting an NFR to test. I'll answer that. If you reach out to your Sophos sales team, either your territory team or the MSP team, we can assist in getting an NFR out to you quickly. I don't know if Shale, if you want to talk anything more about NFRs.
Yeah, I think all of these access points are available through our NFR process now. Yep. And then Sophos Central is basically kind of free to try, so you can definitely connect those.
Great. There's a question here, I don't know if it's applicable, but have you looked at a partnership with Ragapa for social integration? RAGAPA.
Okay, so we haven't, but we are bringing in May-June release that we are coming up. We call it version 2.2 of this release. We are bringing social login as a feature, right? So that's the first time we are bringing in Google, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn as an authentication mechanism for guest login. So your BYOD devices now can basically log in with the social login. We'll definitely look into this. And if you can maybe unicast me a message about type of integration that you're looking at. In the phase 2 of that version 2.2, we are bringing the exportable APIs. So now you can export the data of all of these users. I know my GDPR guys don't like this, but we are not going to be basically managing that data. We are going to enable MSP partners like you to to easily export that. And I know this is a requirement for a lot of marketing organizations for IT teams, is that now they want to know data about who is connecting to their network, what type of browsing they are doing, what location they are in. We can export all of that data as a part of a second release that's coming out in October.
Okay, great. So I'm learning a lot here as well. Are the new wireless access points compatible with SG?
No, the answer is no. All of these access points only work. The APX series are only supported on XG and Central. So they are not supported on a SG. We have some internal, I would say, technical and also business basically proposition for our SG customers who can either switch to XG if they want to move to APX, or they can try to move to Central.
Great. And I see there's a lot of discussion around the social login. Greg and Jaime, thank you. I will pass that information over to Shiel. The next question: do we offer any trade-in for the old APs?
To be honest, I don't think we did consider that, but I don't think we have done something around that. This is something that our internal marketing team is basically discussing from a promo perspective, that if you can basically create a trade-in. Scott, if you want to touch base upon the promos that we have created for the XG guys, we're going to basically look into that for the MSP partner now. So we have a very aggressive promo for a non-MSP partner. We're going to do the same, some creative idea around how we can leverage that for MSP partners.
Yeah, and I'll add, if you're out there selling access points, you can reach out to my team as well. We can, certainly get creative. We can add the wireless access points on top of the XG, deal reg. We have some other capabilities. My team is on the call and they're saying, oh no, what is he going to say? But we have a lot of flexibility. So reach out to your MSP team member and we will be more than happy to, work with you to make it, to make it, a win-win situation on both sides. Another question here: what I'm missing at the moment is being able to have a Sophos Central configured subnet with DHCP server. That way an AP can be really autonomous. Any plans of going that way?
Yeah, so we are looking at it. That's a great question. We did get that request. We don't get that often, but we are getting that request every now and then. I would say maybe once or twice a quarter, that this is something that we should consider. We're looking into that from technically how we can do that. I'm assuming, and please reach out to me, I'm assuming that you need a DHCP server either on the AP that allows you to basically kind of cater the clients, like local clients, that you can use it and then basically route the traffic back through your router. So we're considering that. How can we basically implement that? Today, what you need to do is you can kind of relay the DHCP traffic to a DHCP server. And yeah, unfortunately, that DHCP server is not on the access point. We can definitely consider something on Central. And that's what, there's an architecture discussion going on. So unfortunately, I don't have a clear answer for you right now.
Great. And then this was from the same asker. I see that there is sort of a guest network mode, but I'd like to see that being able to connect a VLAN to that.
Yeah, we're considering that. Yes, that's part of an architecture discussion. We're doing that.
Yep. So just a little bit more feedback. Does APX support mesh functionality?
Yes, it does. Yeah, so it is not an 11S based. It's more of a WDS based mesh. Fairly simple to use. And fairly easy to configure. So it's part of an advanced setting. So it might not be obvious for you, but it's part of an advanced setting you can see in mesh recommendation. I'll tell you one thing that normally I would not recommend mesh because in general, every time you do a mesh, doesn't matter which vendor you choose to, most of the time you lose half the bandwidth or half the capacity of that particular device. And when you are purchasing a latest and greatest technology, you don't want to do it. It's kind of like using only half the capacity of your iPhone, right? So you don't want to do that. What I would recommend is decide if the customer will allow you to put a PoE injector or a PoE port with a switch in that particular location, so you can take an advantage. But if not, absolutely, the feature is available for meshing capability.
Great. There's another question about a government customer. Where are the APX manufactured? The government are not able to use equipment that is manufactured in China.
Yes, great question. So we typically don't publish this information, but in general, they are basically manufactured in China, right? So that's why some of the government basically opportunity, we don't do it. We do have an option to basically manufacture a particular batch in Taiwan. If you would consider something like that, then we can definitely discuss. That's a capability that we have with our vendor. Most of these equipments are designed in California and then basically gets manufactured in China because of the cost concerns.
Great. You said earlier that the Wi-Fi access points won't have the capacity to run some web filters. Can you clarify the difference in security between someone who would be on XG wired versus being on one of these access points with and without an XG in series?
Yeah, so I can give you an example from a use case perspective, right? So you have an environment, you have a work environment where you want to make sure that you block terrible 14 or gambling in your environment, right? So today the Wi-Fi access point that is managed through Sophos Central can see that there is a gambling activities going on. It will give you a visual, basically dashboard for that. What it does not have a capability of is to basically apply a policy and automatically block those type of terrible 14, right? Where we have that as a part of a roadmap consideration, that how can we automatically, like IT manager can select that block all terrible 14, and a part of our URL database and a part of our Sophos Labs database will automatically detect those and saying, yeah, gambling site is basically blocked, and now you're going to be, you will have a pop-up which will say, hey, please contact your IT administrator because this particular traffic is blocked. Today, you can do that with the web content filtering feature on XG. In XG, you can create a policy that will say, I don't want the terrible 14, and then you will be automatically blocked. That's the feature difference that we have between XG, but that's an XG feature, not an XG Wi-Fi feature. We are trying to bring that into Sophos Central Wi-Fi. So now you can block everything from a cloud and then intuitively say, these are the type of traffic I want to shape, and then I want to block it. And then the bigger picture would be that I want to block it on a SSID. So I want to block my contractors not to watch, I'm just giving an example, let's say YouTube videos, or I don't want them to stream Netflix during their work hours because they are expensive contractors. I don't want them to do that. You should be able to do that based on the web policy on the Sophos Central. And that's the feature that's basically in our backlog right now. We don't have that implemented. The blocking part is not implemented. Anything else, Scott?
Sorry, I'm talking to myself on mute. Just to confirm, everybody, the PowerPoint presentation is in the handouts on the GoToWebinar control panel. There's a bunch of questions coming in. I think most of them are being answered by Steve Weber and Travis Simmons on the back end. There's a couple of other ones here. In a wireless mesh, how does it handle network loops?
Yeah, so this is something that we basically internally detect, and that's something that it's a twofold thing, right? One is you as an IT manager have to be careful in when you are defining those mesh. In a WDS, it's actually fairly simple. You won't be able to assign more than one as a part of a loopback. We are planning to introduce this into a more complex mesh in coming year. there you have to be extra careful, because then you might basically do a loop back on that. We are also going to put some technology which will detect this and kind of notify you in a event log, which will say, hey, there is a loop back on the mesh. But we haven't implemented the complex mesh yet. So it's the feature we will implement, but we'll also implement some sort of ease of use and notification for you, so that you take care of that in a configuration. So.
Great. One other question here about integration with data analytics. Where can I see or manage data I capture from a captive portal?
Yeah, so that's what I was referring to earlier, that as a part of today, we don't export this. We want to make sure that we finalize our GDPR protection plans first. And that's what we are working on for the first 6 months of this year. As soon as we have finalized that and we have implemented a automated way to capture that, we are going to enable those APIs, and you will be able to take all these data analytics capability on your captive portal directly to your third-party marketing analytics, basically software. So that earlier when I was referring to that, we are putting together these exportable APIs. That's what I was referring to. That's going to be somewhere in September, October timeframe when we come up with that release. But the first 6 months, we got to figure out how we're going to do the GDPR protection for those data, right? So if I don't want to I don't want my retail analytics data to be shared with the third party through my social login, I should be able to block that. They will notify an IT manager, and IT manager will contact Sophos, and Sophos should be able to block that. We need to first put that entire mechanism in place before we start enabling the data for a third party.
Great. There's actually a really good question here. And I'm going to preface it with a question or a statement, and you can tell me if it's true or not. In comparison to some of the other vendors that are out there, what happens when the license expires? And from my understanding, if you're on the monthly management, I don't think there is a license expiration, but maybe you can handle that both on the term, the 1, 2, and 3 year term license, as well as the monthly subscription.
Yeah, so Scott, unlike like Meraki or some of the other vendors, when your access points become brick, we don't do that, right? We want to make sure that you work with your Sophos counterpart on a business side so that you can continuously manage. Today, we only have a standard license. Our long-term vision is that we will eventually have an advanced license. So the idea is that maybe some of the advanced features will stop working for you, and you will go back to the standard. So access point will continue operating. You won't be able to do some of the advanced security features if you have stopped the monthly subscription. Does that make sense?
Yes, to me.
Yeah.
Hopefully it makes sense to everybody else.
But today we don't basically stop operation. So let me put it this way, right? When we have an advanced, we'll stop the advanced functionality. That's the idea.
Yep, and the feedback on that is perfect and makes sense, and it's great that reduction of features versus completely shutting it off. All right, we're coming to the end here. I wanted to thank everybody. I see a couple other questions coming in, but wanted to thank everybody for joining us again. Don't forget about the XG promo that we have, as well as the Pack Your Bags promo. East MSP at Sophos.com, Central MSP, and West MSP at Sophos.com. If you have any questions, please reach out to that team. That's the MSP team. And then you can also reach out to your Sophos territory teams as well, or sales engineers. Steve Weber's behind the scenes, as a lot of you guys know, answering some of these questions. He's the global MSP sales engineer, and used to work at an MSP, and kind of teed up and answered a lot of these questions. So thanks for the team. Again, if you guys have any questions about anything beyond wireless, if you want to talk about XG, Endpoint, CIX, stuff like that, please let us know. It's the end of our fiscal year coming up in March, and we're looking forward to working with all you guys, and hopefully seeing some of you at the partner conference. So again, thank you very much. This is being recorded. We will send you a follow-up email with the recording and with the PowerPoint presentation if you have not downloaded it on the handouts. Thank you guys. Really appreciate your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.